Good morning. This is my first time out on stage since March 2020. When COVID hit, I decided I needed to have a stage, so I built my own virtual broadcast studio in my basement. My wife painted every single room green, and I tell you, it was a real adventure, but it is actually a real thrill to be up here with you today. I'm from Toronto, Canada, a small city outside Toronto, Canada. My first time in the US driving through today. You might have seen me out here before. I'm still wearing a mask. I'm a little skittish. I'm still adapting to the reality of where we are today. But here's a fun thing. I actually spoke to PMMI in 2003 in Baltimore about the future, about trends, about what comes next, and what you need to do to align yourself to a reality of world in which the future belongs to those who are fast. Now, when I was with you back in 2003, I opened with 3 observations, 3 statistics, and I still use these on stage. We are in a situation in which 65% of kids who work in preschool, who are in preschool today, will work in a job or career that does not yet exist. That's what I said in 2003. My 28-year-old son today is a drone pilot. He's building an Air Force for a commercial real estate firm as a location intelligence professional. This is a career that did not exist back in 2003. We are in a situation in which the volume of medical knowledge, the volume of knowledge for anybody taking any type of degree today, based on science, so agriculture, healthcare, engineering, technology, half of the knowledge that they get in the very first year of a college or university program is obsolete or revised by the time they graduate. That's how quickly our world is changing. And the third observation I used back in 2003, the typical product that comes to market today, it's obsolete within 6 months of release. And now look at your smartphones. Those of you who might have an iPhone 7, you're carrying around something from the olden days. We're in Detroit. The vehicle you are driving, the dashboard from 2018, is ancient because we are in a world in which Tesla simply pushes out software updates to upgrade the vehicle. We are in a world in which the future belongs to those who are fast. And that has been my message for over 25 years to organizations. I actually went and dug out the PowerPoint deck that I used in 2003. It was actually in a format called Lotus Freelance. I had to go find somebody over in India to convert the files for me. And look at the very first slide. I'm using clip art, for crying out loud, in the slide deck. But I will share with you 3 slides. You know what my message to you was in 2003? The packaging is the product. We were on the precipice of an era in which the packaging was becoming the product. Heinz turning the ketchup bottle upside down in an innovative way to capture market share. StarKist moving away from a tin can product to resealable plastic pouches and seeing an uplift to $200 million in sales. We were in an era in which the tiebreaker for innovation was packaging, and you were at the forefront of the future. We are in an era in which you were moving away from simply engineering new products to being an integral part of the marketing team. And we were in an era in which I captured Tom's attention when I put up this slide. By 2010, it was observed 60% of the cost of a packaging machine will be software, with but a minority portion to be found in the hardware cost. And think about the digitalization of this industry. Think about the speed with which it is occurring. Think about the skills that you need to know to do your job today. And now think about what COVID has done to the acceleration of our future. I'm going to take you on a voyage of the future. I'm going to talk about the trends which are impacting you right now and what you need to do to align to the reality of this world. These are my clients. I'm spending more time with organizations around the world, CEOs of massive companies who realize they are living in a world of massive disruptive change in which we cannot expect that anything that we experienced in the past is going to be our guide for where we're going to go into the future. It's been an amazing ride since I was with you in 2003. And one moment I got a call from this organization. It's an early Monday morning, the phone rings, Jim, hi, it's NASA. We watched your YouTube video about innovation in the future. We've got a meeting with a whole bunch of astronauts and launch directors and mission controllers and rocket engineers. We'd like you to come in and talk to us about the future of space. I almost dropped the phone. I mean, you know, NASA, the future, space, a room full of astronauts. You know, I was putting together my PowerPoint presentation, and I was sitting there, you know, a week out, thinking, what can I possibly talk to these folks about? I mean, these are incredibly brilliant people. What can I talk to them about in terms of the future of space? And I started going through my mind, the future, space, George Jetson. I'm going to talk about George Jetson. Why not? Let's talk about the Jetsons. And I went and I found this picture of George, and I put it up on the screen, and I started talking about the Jetsons. You remember the Jetsons? This show came out in 1962. It purported to show what the world would look like in the year 2062, 100 years later. It was a prediction of the future. It was a group of futurists getting together to predict what the future might look like. And I began talking to them about the Jetsons, pointing out that if you examine the show, everything they talked about that was going to be here in 2062 was actually here today. And my point for NASA, my point for you is this. We think the future is far away. The future is actually coming at us with greater speed, greater intensity. What is happening here is, you take a look at the show, George is using FaceTime. George is using Skype. He's talking to his boss over the internet. He's using all these, you know, massively interconnected, intelligent devices. We thought this was far away. It actually arrived sooner than we think. Then I'm thinking, it's NASA, I got to talk about Spock. There's no way I'm going to NASA and not putting a picture of Spock. So I found this picture of Spock. Look at this particular episode. Any Trekkies in the room, they always argue with this photo because apparently I take it out of context. But what Spock is holding in his hands here is a medical tricorder. A fantastic concept from the 23rd century. A little device that he could hold next to the head of a human or an alien and get an instant readout of their physical health. Well, my point for NASA was that this technology is here today. I hold in my hands here a little device called the Xanadu Scout. I can hold this to my head. I can turn it on. It will tether to my phone. It will take my blood pressure. It will take my pulse. It will take my oxygen level. It will run an EKG of my heart. And it was part of a crowdfunding initiative to define the technology of the future as found in Star Trek and bring it to our world today. Do you know what's going on today? We're living in a world in which, you know, what we thought was far away is actually here today. I came home from NASA, and I was kind of intrigued by what I saw on the Jetsons. And I downloaded the entire TV series, and I started watching from episode 1. You know, the kids came home from college. I'm sitting on the couch watching the Jetsons. What are you doing, Dad? Business research, guys, trust me. This is really important, but it's fascinating when you go through this show. It's fascinating when you look at what is happening. Robotic technology. I mean, it was all over the Jetsons. It was all a part of it. The intelligent Internet of Things, connected kitchen of the future. You know, it's part of our lives today. iPads, tablets, Android devices, they were all over the show. They had these in 1962. An Apple Watch. Just like the watch that I've got on my wrist here today, connected, intelligent, aware, monitoring our health and providing other information. They actually predicted virtual shopping. You know, in one particular episode, Jane is trying on some clothing using virtual reality technology, and she presses a button, the doorbell rings 30 seconds later, and there it is. Amazon Prime. Who's a member of Amazon Prime? I'm almost down to 1 hour delivery in Toronto. I can try something on, and if I don't like it, I can send it back. They actually predicted the Amazon Echo, Google Home devices, these little intelligent speakers on the wall. They're all in the Jetsons, and this wasn't supposed to be here until 2062. It is here today. My point is, you thought the future was far away. And if you think about the world of packaging, where we are going, it's going to come at you with greater intensity, greater speed. We live in the era of acceleration. They predicted Snapchat. Jane is trying on a face, a different mask. And, you know, my wife said to me, don't talk about politics, you know, in America when you're down there. It's just not going to go well. But I'm watching one episode in the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones, and I thought, that's it. That's what's going on out there. Well, here we are in COVID. Do you know what they actually did? They predicted what we would witness with social distancing with COVID. The home office was in the Jetsons. Online gym classes, telemedicine, video calling. And as I was stuck in my basement in my virtual broadcast studio figuring out what I was going to do to get through this unique period of time in human history, I actually found another TV show which predicted the unique era of social distancing in which we found ourselves. Get smart with the cone of silence. You look at where we were, you look at what was going on, we lived through a fascinating period of time. Here's what you need to know. The future you are reading about is happening right now, in this very moment. I spent a lot of fascinating time with a lot of fascinating organizations who are considering what they need to do in the future. Whirlpool Maytag, CEO event. They're talking about how do we migrate from a world in which we manufacture appliances, which wash your clothes and cook your food, to a world in which we manufacture highly intelligent, connected computer devices that happen to wash your clothes and cook your food. Because the Internet of Things changes everything in terms of what we do. And what is the role of packaging in the smart kitchen of the future? I was with Volvo Mack trucks, a couple of leadership events. They know they no longer sell trucks. They know they are now in the business of selling hyper-connected data rolling platforms on wheels in which the truck knows when it's going to break down because it's got so much predictive diagnostic capability built into it that it is aware it's going to help to maximize uptime. With a company out in St. Louis, twice, Amstead Rail, who is integrating a lot of connectivity into the rail bogies of their vehicles. And they know that Internet of Things connectivity changes the nature of their product, but they're also looking at how can we compete in a global economy by accelerating our adoption of 3D printing technology. And how do we accelerate our manufacturing capability through 3D printing, because that will be the pathway for us to compete in a new and different world. With a company called Columbus McKinnon, which manufactures the overhead cranes that you find in a lot of manufacturing facilities. How do we integrate blockchain technology into our future architecture as a means of managing the industrial Internet of Things? A company called Arconic, which is a spin-off of Alcoa. How do we accelerate the adoption of advanced scientific materials to lighten the nature of the products that we are bringing to market? You know what is going on here? The future is bigger than you think. I think we're going to wake up in the year 2030, the year 2035, and we're going to look back to 2020, 2021, 2022, and we're going to realize we were in the midst of an absolutely massive change. And we didn't really notice it happening, but one day we woke up and we realized everything changed. Think about the world of healthcare. You know, right now we can look at a couple of hundred strands of my DNA and determine with a high degree of accuracy what I am likely to become sick with through my lifetime. The world of healthcare is going upside down. Rather than fixing you after you're sick, we're going to be in a world in which we know what you are going to become sick with, and we are going to re-architect the delivery of healthcare resources based upon that knowledge. The world of construction. You know, one day in the world of construction in the year 2021, we would take a whole bunch of materials to a site and we would assemble on site. But then we woke up in the future and realized what we were doing was we were prefabbing everything off-site. We were using 3D printing and concrete technology to assemble most of the structure off-site for rapid assembly on-site. I'm in Orlando tomorrow with Siemens Energy. And we're going to realize in the future that one day we had an energy grid which was based on coal, on oil, on natural gas. But then most of it became based on renewables, microgrids, battery storage technology, in which the Tesla vehicle in my driveway becomes a part of the utility grid because I can store the solar energy from the roof of my home in the car and feed it into my home at night. One day we're going to realize that we used to drive vehicles and they had something called an internal combustion engine. And here we are in Detroit. Detroit knows that the internal combustion engine is dead. That we've got one last oil boom left, and that's it. It's over. It's done. The future is battery. The future is autonomous. The future is electric. We remember one day in the past, we used to go to stores to get the stuff we need. And then we found it came to us. With Amazon Prime, last mile delivery technology, massive change in the retail landscape. And we'll remember a world in which there used to be something called a mass production, where a company would manufacture millions of products all the same, and then we found ourselves in a world of mass customization, customization to an individual of one, based on direct customer relationships, 3D printing technology, end of runway manufacturing, and other advanced concepts. All of this is unfolding right now. One day in the future, we're going to wake up and go, whoa, I lived through that change. Here's the interesting thing. We were talking about this before COVID hit. Before COVID hit, we were talking about the acceleration gap. We were in a world in which the speed of change was beginning to outpace our ability to deal with that speed of change. And now I want you to think about, what did COVID do to our world? 4 months before COVID hit, I was with Javi International in Chicago, an event with senior leaders of the organization to talk about the future of retail and the future of packaging. Javi International is extremely involved in all things packaging having to do with McDonald's. And here's what we were talking about. We were talking about the fact that McDonald's was already skewing to a business of store pickup, delivery. They were doing 10 delivery orders per second. They were already having 1 million customers worldwide who were ordering online. 2 times the restaurant check in Canada, one order for online home delivery came in at $700. I kind of thought we were a healthy nation. They saw $4 billion already in 2019 of online ordering, and 10% of the sales at stores that offered it were selling online. This is before COVID hit. 60% of the orders were happening at night. And what we were talking about in that room was that e-commerce might be 13% of retail by the year 2021. I think we sort of missed the boat on that one with COVID. That shopper marketing, which would integrate the ability for location intelligence, mobile device technology, linking the package to your phone for customer insight with in-store display technology, was going to be an absolutely massive pathway to the future. We were talking about mobile payment infrastructure with Apple Pay and streamlined interaction. He's talking about the fact that we're probably going to see Apple Pay and credit card technology embedded into my car one day in the future, and I'll just drive through the checkout lane and the magic will happen. And we were talking about the rapid emergence of delivery disruptors. All of these trends unfolding at an absolutely furious pace. The world of retail, the world of packaging was already fast. The rapid installation of restaurant click and collect infrastructure. Everybody was struggling to put this in place. Faster store fashion. We've got to change the infrastructure of the store to deal with the reality. More of our product sales are going to be delivered to the consumer at home. The arrival of intelligent packaging, Internet of Things packaging, connected packaging. And all of this happening in the context of collapsing product life cycles, where products become obsolete faster than ever before. Well, look at that. There's a duplicate set of slides. I said this is my first time out since March 2020, so it obviously didn't pass the quality control. Continual packaging innovation. Now, I've spent so much time with so many retailers talking about packaging innovation, the role of continued packaging innovation. I was with the Godiva chocolates twice over in Europe pre-COVID, where they recognized the role of packaging is art, is something new. It's not just the inert object to hold the product. It is something that provides uplift. It is fashion. And what we were talking about with McDonald's was they were already accelerating their adoption of edible packaging. Burger packaging made from grass, McFlurries with wooden spoons. They were already well on the pathway of aligning to fast consumer change. And then COVID hit. Do you know what has happened here? It turned on your innovation machine at a furious pace. Look at how quickly packaging companies had to innovate. Look at how quickly consumer product goods companies had to innovate. Look at how quickly retailers had to innovate. Look what happened with food delivery packaging. Look how quickly we accelerated e-commerce and pick and pack logistics. I wrote a little book in 1999 called Selling Online about the future of e-commerce, and it's sold in Canada, sold in the US, sold in Russia, sold in Germany, and an unauthorized edition which sold in India. And everybody told me, no, it's never going to amount to anything. There will never be a lot of e-commerce. It's always going to be but a blip. Think about the innovation that we saw within the packaging industry. I don't drink, but I was actually fascinated by what a wine company over in Israel did. They discovered early on in the pandemic, people were ordering wine to get them through, and the wine was being stolen from the front door porch. So what did they do? Let's come up with a flat bottle. And let's come up with a flat package. And let's design it so that bottle can be put through the mail slot, thereby eliminating the potential for theft. You saw such rapid innovation in the world of packaging, it was staggering. We saw a lot of, marriage of healthcare technology with packaging technology and sensors. You think about what happened with a lot of packaging companies with 3D printing capability, and they quickly transitioned that to print nasal swabs and surgical masks and face shields. And we had CEOs going, wow, this 3D printing stuff, it's not science fiction, it's real, we're actually doing it, which accelerated that trend even further. We saw a lot of packaging machine innovation because there was so much of a focus on home delivery of food, so much of a focus on e-commerce. How do we align ourselves to the customer reality and what the customer needs to give them the machines they need to develop the packaging they need in a world of fast change? Here's what really happened with COVID. In every single industry, we compressed 10 years of change into about 6 months. We talked about e-commerce and retail, and all of a sudden they all had to do e-commerce. We talked about the need for virtual collaboration in the workplace, and all of a sudden we had to do virtual collaboration in the workplace to such an extent that we are all dying by Zoom. We talked about the need for telehealth, virtual doctor visits, and all of a sudden we had to do virtual healthcare, doctor health visits online. In every single industry, what COVID did was it took the trends that we were talking about, which would be prevalent in the year 2030, and it made them all happen in the year 2020. And what it did was it accelerated those trends. It sped those trends up because we had so much investment in those trends. I think what really happened here is organizations learned something new about speed. If we eliminate the barriers, if we eliminate the hierarchy, if we eliminate all of the stuff which slowed us down, we learned we can operate faster than we ever thought possible. And we're never going back because we discovered we could be agile, we could be flexible, we could move fast, we could act fast, we could be a fast organization. And this all happened in the context in which business models shifted faster. We have never lived through a period of time that has seen so much fast change in business models within industry. A lot of this was driven by the acceleration of direct-to-consumer brands. We, the customer, have forever changed. The implications of Amazon Prime, same-day delivery, curbside pickup, ultimate convenience in the world of retail will forever drive our future, even as we go crawling back to this next weird normal. People became more adaptable to new ideas. I mean, I did a lot of sessions where I talk about creativity and innovation. Eric Wall and I have probably done 10 or 15 events together over the last 25 years. And we would talk often about the same thing. We need to accelerate our creativity, our imagination, our innovation. And all of a sudden, organizations discovered they had some secret sauce with creativity, imagination, collaboration, because the innovation killers disappeared. You know where a lot of organizations were pre-COVID? We were dying by organizational sclerosis. We had people in our companies, every morning the first thought that came to their mind was, what am I going to do today to kill great ideas? Seriously, this is how they thought. And you know they thought like this because these are the code words and phrases they used. You can't do that because we've always done it this way. It won't work. It's a dumb idea. The boss won't go for it. It's doomed to fail. Why can't we keep doing what we've been doing all along the way before? These are the attitudes which held us back. Well, you know what? A lot of that thinking disappeared by necessity because we simply had to get things done to survive. Decision-making paralysis absolutely disappeared. For years, I've been saying a lot of organizations have suffered from what I call aggressive indecision. We're going to wait to make a decision because we want more clarity. That disappeared with COVID. We had to make fast decisions. Slow structure was put under a microscope, and old barriers to new ideas absolutely disappeared. Do you know what we're focused on now? How do we keep the momentum going? But you know what it really did? It caused the acceleration gap to get bigger. The speed of change of consumer behavior business model innovation, new forms of interaction, attention spans. The typical human scans 12 feet of grocery space per second. The typical goldfish has a longer attention span than a human. All of these things changed. And what is happening here is if the future belonged to those who are fast pre-COVID, it's an even more challenging issue at this point because the speed of change has accelerated. You did a remarkable job through all of this. You think about the innovation and creativity you witnessed. You think about what you observed. You think about how quickly you became fast-moving. You think about how quickly you responded to customer demands for new products, new capabilities, new forms of packaging. This particular study, what was the impact of COVID-19 in the packaging industry? Greater appreciation of the environmental impact of packaging. My God, I'm getting all these packages delivered by Amazon Prime. Look at all the cardboard I'm using. Look at the footprint I'm leaving. This is horrid. Acceleration of e-commerce. A shift in consumer preferences around packaging materials and formats. Reduced consumer enthusiasm for refill and reuse. Greater demand for supply chain traceability. It accelerated the attitude of the consumer towards what was going on, but it accelerated your capabilities with more of a focus on automation. And now what everybody's focused on, how do we keep this momentum? How do we make sure that what we developed as a leadership team, as an industry, as a creativity engine, responding to our customer needs, how do we ensure we keep that going forward? Because the changes coming at us are staggering. 6 months, it took 10 years of change to occur in 6 months. And the whole impact of logistics and e-commerce and supply chain and just-in-time shifting to just-in-case. The elephant in the room is still Amazon. And Amazon is out there investing in automation as the next wave. 60% of the cost of a packaging machine back in 2003 would become software by 2010. And that's only going to accelerate. Your industry is being further digitized. And look at what they wrote. The company with technology that makes custom-sized boxes that eliminate the need for single-use plastic packaging. This is where Amazon's taking the future, and you have to go to the same place. Your future is going to become faster. Now, how do you get there? You've got a remarkable opportunity this afternoon. Wish I wasn't off to Orlando because I would love to go there by going to the Ford Rouge plant. And seeing a 100-year-old facility and what they are doing to try to align to a world of faster change. And I want to take you on a broad-ranging tour of the world of manufacturing, of what is happening in the world of manufacturing. And all of this is trickling down to you. Here's what's going on. A whole variety of trends which are underway right now. The design process is being reimagined. What did I do during golf? During COVID? A lot of golf. And I actually went out for a round one day with a fellow. And we had a little chit-chat, and we get up by the first hole, and he chips his shot. And I'm looking at his wedge, and it's kind of a really weird wedge. And I said, where'd you get that wedge? It's got this funny little tail on the bottom. He said, I had it 3D printed. Turns out the guy is a retired engineer. He's got a lot of time in his hands. He always thought he could develop a better golf wedge than anybody else, so he designed it using his computer with some CAD/CAM software, sends it to a contract 3D printer manufacturer who prints the club for him in metal. He took it out, he used it, it wasn't working. I think it was a fail. We get up to number 18 by the pond, he throws it in the pond, and he said, I'm gonna have a different prototype next week, and he did. We are now in a world in which people are reimagining design in the context of 3D printing technology. The entire process of design is becoming iterative in every single aspect of manufacturing. It used to be we design something, we would do a run of 1 million products, mass customization. But that is now changing. It is now changing because there's a lot of technology coming at us which lets us do rapid concept generation, where we can conceive the product virtually through our design process. Rapid concept development, 3D printing technology, and other technologies lets us test out the product and see what's working and see what's not working, and then go back and immediately redo it again. The entire process of design in manufacturing, bringing a product to a market, is now becoming this weird iterative process that we can continually redo it and redesign it and rework it. And you're going to find more of the CPG companies are going to start coming to you with this idea because they are in a world in which food fashion, in which brand fashion, in which the longevity of products, product life cycles are collapsing. So they're having to bring product to market faster than ever before. And as your valued partners, they are looking to you to be the partner to help them do the innovative packaging around the product because the packaging is the brand. You need to align yourself to this new iterative process. We're seeing a lot of disruptive technologies appear. Automation. Automation is everywhere. Automation will be more and more of the component cost of the typical manufacturing machine. I was over in Morocco with the World Bank talking about the emergence of manufacturing in third world countries, and we are seeing staggering amounts of manufacturing automation, sobots, which completely automate the process of custom manufacture of clothing and boots and other capabilities. It's really fascinating what's happening in the world of manufacturing is the emergence of predictive diagnostics. I spent some time with Schneider Electric, with 500 manufacturing engineers talking about the emergence of the industrial Internet of Things and what it gives us in terms of visibility on the plant floor, what it gives us in terms of understanding when the manufacturing process might be breaking down. But not only that, what it gives us in terms of the very design of the products we're bringing to market. Because once we embed technology in the product, everything changes. We know when it's going to break down. We know when it's going to go wrong. We know what is going to happen. So in the factory, IIoT provides us condition-based maintenance alerts, production for monitoring and exceptions, cobot management. Cobots, the use of cobots, cooperative robots, actually accelerated during COVID because cobots let us work with a robotic technology next to a human without the need for a cage. Because they are so sophisticated, they are aware of who is working next to them. And IIoT plays a role in all of these trends. Moore's Law has come to the world of manufacturing. As you digitize, the reality of what occurs is Silicon Valley, the speed of technology, the speed of the computer chip, now defines the pace of innovation within the industry. And what happens when an industry becomes a technology industry? What happens when an industry becomes a software industry? Moore's Law defines the speed of change. Now, Moore's Law is the law that the processing power of a computer chip doubles every 18 months and the cost cuts in half. And that's what's happening to packaging machinery. That's what's happening with the products you are bringing to market. As they digitize, you know, a product that you're bringing to market, it's going to be something from the olden days in 2 years. Because your customers are going to demand the latest, the greatest, the capabilities, the sophistication that we can bring to these devices. The very nature of the machines that you are creating is shifting at a furious pace. Virtual process simulation. We now have the capability in the world of manufacturing to visualize an entire manufacturing process from start to finish before we commit to final implementation. We're in a world in which the very methodology of manufacturing is collapsing because of 3D printing. I love finding charts which indicate how quickly particular technologies are emerging. And this is an old one. You know, this is about from 3 years ago. One particular 3D printing methodology called SLA would take 11.5 hours to engineer and print a particular part, and using a new emerging methodology, that was down to 6.5 minutes. It's probably down to like 90 seconds today, given everything that has happened with COVID, which has accelerated 3D printing technology. Time is collapsing in terms of manufacturing methodology. Have it got you scared yet? 3D printing technology today is 30 times faster than it was in 2015. Now, all this is happening in the context in which robotics are accelerating. Social distancing drove greater adoption of robotic technology in the factory floor. And what happens here is companies in the manufacturing and logistics industry, you know, they're spending 60, 80% of their time in materials handling. But we're seeing the arrival of innovative new technologies like Grab It. It can pick up an egg and not crack it. And organizations are realizing that what they have with the opportunity to streamline to efficiency, to bring in new process using robotic technology is simply staggering. All of this is happening in a context in which Not only are we bringing Internet of Things into the factory floor, but we're bringing them into the very vehicles we drive, the very products we use, the very products which are a part of our life. Now, back in 1999, I got on stage at a packaging conference, and I talked about the issue of perfect microwave popcorn. You ever try to make microwave popcorn? It's kind of a bizarre thing. You read the bag, cook between 2 to 3 minutes, and when you hear a few seconds between pops, it's done. Well, my little guys, are 4 and 6 years old. It's a Friday night. I'm going to make microwave popcorn. I put it in, and everything is really good. And I put it in. What's a few seconds between pops? And I missed it, and it's burnt, and the kids are crying. The wife is mad at me. A disaster. And I concocted this scenario. We're going to be in a situation one day in the future in which the package of popcorn is going to have barcode on it. And you're going to put it into your microwave. And it's going to read that barcode. And it's going to do a query to a database somewhere out there in the cloud. Oh, for this particular Whirlpool brand of microwave and this particular brand of Orville Redenbacher popcorn, the cook time is 2 minutes and 37 seconds. And it's going to lead us to a world of perfect microwave popcorn. In 1999, this is crazy science fiction. Who invited this guy in with these crazy ideas? And when I presented this idea to the CEO of Whirlpool and others, and what they're talking about in a world in which they no longer build appliances, but they happen to build devices. Highly connected, highly intelligent devices which cook your food and wash your clothes. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to us. What is the role of packaging? When it becomes connected, it becomes aware, it becomes an integral part, not just holding the product inside, but an integral part of how you use the product. Every single device which is a part of our daily life is becoming connected, it's becoming plugged in. You think about cars, you think about the Tesla in my driveway. It's not a car. It's an upgradable, hyper-connected data-gathering platform that happens to have wheels and a battery. Why do you think Elon Musk is the richest man on the planet right now? Because the automotive industry is becoming a computer industry. So is packaging. And this changes everything. Now, it could get weird, could it get out of hand? One morning I'll get up on my weigh scale. It's going to send an email to my fridge, don't let Jim in today. He's not living up to the terms. And then it's going to contact Blue Cross and, cut off my coverage because I'm not living up to my wellness deal. But you know what this connectivity does? Changes the very nature of the product. I talked about Volvo Mack trucks. They know they no longer sell you a truck. They now sell you a service level uptime guarantee because they can predict with a high degree of accuracy when any particular truck is going to break down, and they're going to alert you, and they're going to call it in for maintenance before you send it off in the back roads of Nevada on a long distance trucking haul. That is a value to the customer. And what happens here in this world of connectivity is it changes to a world of services. Imagine you find yourselves 10 years from now in which you're not selling packaging machines, but you're selling a packaging service through the cloud. And you're not running the darn machine, but you've got a customer coming in via some type of virtualized process, managing the entire setup, managing the entire production run, managing the entire logistics. You're no longer selling a machine. You are selling a digitized service. Your future is going to be unlike anything you've known before as we shift to this world. Here's what we know. It's difficult to anticipate when this is going to happen. Bill Gates made the observation, most people tend to overestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 2-year basis. They underestimate the rate of change that will occur on a 10-year basis. Imagine where you're going to be in the year 2031 when you go to this conference and what we're going to be talking about on stage. Imagine the issues, that you're going to be wrestling with. Imagine what you need to do between now and then to reinvent yourself and align yourself to a world in which the future belongs to those who are faster. But wait, there's more. There's always more. Everybody always asks me, what do you think is the most disruptive trend in our world today? It's this kid. It's this kid. It's this younger generation many of you in the room, who have never known a world without the internet, who have never known a world without constant connectivity, who are mystified by a world. Back in 1994, for example, my kids, you wrote books about the internet, Daddy? Why do people need books? What were they about? A world in which everything that is a part of our daily lives is becoming something from the olden days. Let me ask a little question around the room, and I asked this back in 2003, and the answer is going to shift, but how many of you, the very first computer course you ever took involved learning COBOL, BASIC, or Fortran? Hold up your hands. Look at all the boomers around the room. You think about what happened to us. We are the only generation ever in the history of mankind who have ever met the punch card. Do not fold, spindle, or mutilate. Right? And it didn't go well. We went through the worst of technology. And I think what this did is, we do pretty well with this stuff, but we struggle. We are challenged by our ability to keep up. The kids, they're different. They never met a punch card. They've never known a world without connectivity. So while we feel battered and bruised, and we fall prey to this sentiment, progress is great, it's gone on way too long. Who invited this guy in? Tom, why'd you bring Jim Carroll in? He's freaking me out. I just wish everything would stay the way it is right now. It's not going to. And that's because this next generation, the leaders that you just saw walking up here, this is where their heads are at. We like to do what we did before, and we will keep on doing that. The kids are different. They thrive on change. They thrive on creativity. They thrive on new ideas. They break down barriers. They accelerate the future. And 1 out of 2 kids on the planet today is under the age of 25. They're wired, they're collaborative, they know how to work in teams. They are creative to a degree we have never witnessed before. This is not to disparage who we are. I think we've gone through the most crazy period of technology change ever with COBOL and Fortran and BASIC and punch cards. The kids never had to deal with that. Here's your future right here. Every morning I get up and I take some quote from a stage somewhere. And recently they've been a lot of virtual stages. And I wrap some sort of motivational or future-oriented quote that I put on. And one morning I got up and this is what came to my mind. And I blasted out to 50,000 people on social media. Inspiration.jimcarroll.com. And this is the idea that came to my mind one day. We are now in a situation in which companies that do not yet exist will build products not yet conceived, using materials not yet invented, with methodologies that have not yet been designed. Are you ready for your world of disruption? Are you ready for your world of acceleration? Are you ready for a world in which the future belongs to those who are faster? Are you ready from a skills perspective? I was with a robotics manufacturer out in Davenport, Iowa a number of years ago, and they said, look, in the world of manufacturing, the skills issue is huge. There's no shortage of manufacturing jobs. You know this. You can't find people. You can't find enough skilled people. And that's because the typical machinist today, it's almost as if they need to be able to do trigonometry in their heads. That's your reality going forward. You're wondering, well, what do I do Monday? Everybody's always like, what do I do Monday morning? Like, geez, I don't know. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not a motivational speaker. I always found those folks like a little bit like Chinese food. You listen to them an hour later. Whoa, what was that about? I want you to think about where you're going to be in 2030, and I want you to think about what you are going to do to get there. Because the context of your future is an accelerated innovation cycle among your customers, the rapid ingestion of new technologies and methodologies, co-creation, where you are a partner to the process, where the packages of the brand, and rapid response to volatility and reorientation to fast-paced change. 2 minutes to close. I will ask you this. What's your tin can? What's your tin can? Where have you been doing the same thing that you have always done because that's what you've always done? StarKist challenged themselves on the package because they had been bringing out product for 100 years in a tin can. And by adopting a resealable plastic tuna pouch, saw $200 million in product sales uplift just like that. What's your tin can, and what are you going to do to change that? In the context of COVID, it was one of the slides I put out in the early days of COVID, VUCA. Volatility, ambiguity, complexity, uncertainty. You now have to do that in the context of volatility being the new normal. And you're witnessing that right now with everything having to go on with supply chain, globalization, and reshoring, and all these new trends you're having to manage and deal with. But what you really need to do is you need to realize you probably need a chief resilience officer, somebody who's going to help you to manage the volatility as you go forward into this faster future. If you do anything, it's this: change your future before the future changes you. The future's coming at us with greater speed, greater intensity, greater velocity, greater surprise, greater volatility, more challenges. Some people see the future and see a threat. Innovators see the same future and see an opportunity. What you really need to do is this: you think big, you start small, you scale fast. Thank you very much. Safe travels. It's so good to be back up here. I think I might still have it. And if you might tolerate me for a moment, I'd love to get a little picture. Oops. Just to remember what it was like back in the good old days. Thank you. Have a great conference.
And now, please join us for our breakout sessions on the 5th floor. Following the breakout sessions and lunch is the plant tour. Masks are required for the bus and tour. Buses depart at 2 p.m. sharp.